Now that Donald Trump is headed back to the White House, if you want to shape American politics, Fox is the place to be. Right now, at least 12 of Trump's cabinet picks have either been Fox News hosts or Fox News contributors. And this use of Fox as effectively a staffing agency extends far beyond just Fox hosts and paid contributors. Lots of Trump administration picks are just Fox News regulars, guests, who appear on the channel hundreds of times a year. Some, like Chris Wright, Trump's pick for energy secretary, have no government experience at all and only caught Trump's attention because of his appearances on Fox News. There is no institution as critical to the Trump presidency or to the American right as Fox News. And in the last 24 hours, we got news that the network's conservative mission could be facing an existential threat coming from the very top. There is real drama surrounding what happens to Fox and the Murdoch media empire when the 93-year-old Rupert Murdoch, the real-life one, eventually dies. The real-life succession plan of the media empire is based around an irrevocable trust, one that would divide control of the media empire equally among Rupert's 4 eldest children, Lachlan, James, Elizabeth, and Prudence, after the elder Murdoch's death. And while Lachlan Murdoch, who is already the executive chairman and CEO of the Fox Corporation, while Lachlan is a staunch conservative like his father Rupert, Rupert's other children are reportedly not. So the Times reports that in recent years, Rupert and Lachlan have grown increasingly concerned that James, Elizabeth, and Prudence are planning some sort of coup. A coup that, after Rupert Murdoch's death, would change the editorial vision of Fox News and maybe make it less of an audition space for Trump appointees or an echo chamber for conservative paranoia. Now, the reason we know any of this is because Rupert and Lachlan got so concerned about this alleged family plot to demagify Fox that they started a legal battle to try and change the rules of the family trust. Reportedly, this legal battle was not overtly about money. The changes to the trust wouldn't have diminished any of Rupert's children's financial stakes in the company. As the Times puts it, this legal battle was about the future control of the world's most powerful conservative media empire. A court official in Nevada concluded that Lachlan and Rupert Murdoch had acted in bad faith to amend the rules of the family trust. In his decision, he wrote that Mr. Murdoch and Lachlan's representatives on the trust, including Mr. Bill Barr, demonstrated a dishonesty of purpose and motive. He concluded the play might have worked, but an evidentiary hearing, like a showdown in a game of poker, is where gamesmanship collides with the facts. And at its conclusion, all the bluffs are called and the cards lie face up. Joining me now is Angelo Carusone, President and CEO of Media Matters for America. Angelo, I thought about you when I first read this. I'm so happy that you can join me and give me your thoughts on it. In terms of the importance of Rupert or Lachlan Murdoch ultimately staying in charge of the conservative Fox News network, how critical is it? I mean, well, first of all, I should say, how important is any one man in this scenario in your estimation?
I mean, in this case, it's really hard to separate out what Fox News is in terms of its larger place within the right-wing landscape and Rupert and Lachlan Murdoch. So in this instance, they are one and the same, at least the editorial direction of Fox News right now. And, that's clear. I mean, the evidence of that is, in the lead up, in the aftermath of the 2020 election, Rupert Murdoch, just before January 6th, just a couple of days before, was thinking to himself that the only entity in the country that could correct the misunderstanding, the false information that Trump was pushing out there that the election was stolen, was Fox News. And ultimately, he decided not to do that. That all came out as a result of the Dominion lawsuit. So that was a Rupert Murdoch decision. Everything that Fox News did in 2020, everything that Fox News is a consequence of Rupert Murdoch and now Lachlan Murdoch. They are inseparable in that way.
The fact that this decision came down, this ruling came down in Nevada, I mean, how much import do you attach to the fact that the other Murdoch children, James, Elizabeth, and Prudence, may play a significant role in determining the ultimate direction of Fox News? I mean, do you believe that they will potentially steer the network in a less conservative direction?
I think that, I don't want to pretend that somehow they're saviors that are going to come in and sort of, protect everybody from the destructive effects of Fox News. That's not what I think necessarily, but I don't think I need to think that. There are real realities here, and that plays out even in this litigation, which is that Fox News is about as much about making money as it is about advancing a political agenda. It is a political tool. It is functionally a super PAC in many ways. It is an extension of Murdoch's sort of politics. And that's evidenced by the fact that they actually leave a lot of money on the table. All these advertiser issues that they've had over the years with Glenn Beck or Bill O'Reilly or Tucker Carlson, they were not maximizing profits. They were losing money every day during parts of those years. They were leaving money on the table, but they let that happen because they were serving a political advantage during a period of time. So what I think is likely, though, is that they see a future for Fox News. And we got a keyhole view of this before James Murdoch left. He had really big plans for Fox News post-2017 when he moved into sort of him and Lachlan Murdoch at one point were peers. They were co-running the place. He had a big strategy for how they were going to expand their footprint internationally, how they were going to grow their footprint increasingly in the sports field, which would get massive amounts of increased revenue, and to weaken the brand that Fox News had built. It's a toxic brand globally. I mean, part of the reason they lost this satellite deal that they were trying to have in the UK and that regulators killed it is because they were concerned about Foxification of their own news industry over there, and they squashed that deal. So James Murdoch had big plans for leveraging Fox's assets and growing it and increasing their revenue. So what do I think the likelihood here is that I think that they see all the potential that this company could be if you don't make politics on par with making money. If you just make it about making money, then that means that you do eliminate some of the extremist politics that are there. You don't do some of the crazy things. You don't make yourself one and the same with sort of the Trump administration. You actually focus on the business first and the politics second or third. So the effect of that would be to weaken it. And that matters because Fox News is like a center of gravity for the rest of the right-wing media. What they do when they're doing it well and they're echoing it, it reverberates through that massive right-wing media landscape.
Yeah, and I would say politics is one thing, lies are another. I mean, and the defamation suit is costing them just as much as anything else, right? The Dominion Voting Systems lawsuit cost Fox $787 million, and that wasn't because of a political bent. That's because they were interested in defaming Dominion Voting Systems in defense of Donald Trump. In service of an extreme political agenda, it cost the network literally $750 million. I wonder, Angelo, when you think about the way in which Fox remains a holding pen for Trump administration officials, a staging area, an echo chamber, and, a sort of audition platform, what's your expectation for the incoming Trump administration in terms of the utility of the network, given how big of a role it's already played in staffing the Trump White House?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I will say that my prediction or my sense is that it's not going to be the same as it was the last time. In 2017, it was a feedback loop. Sometimes Donald Trump would be leading Fox News, and sometimes Fox News would be leading Donald Trump. It sort of depended every single day. They were two independent entities, deeply intertwined and aligned, and they overlapped. This time around, Fox has sort of given up any of its own independent role, and they are functioning purely as a subordinate to what Donald Trump wants and his will and his agenda. And what that means is that when you think about their potential for incubating new personnel, new policies, that's going to be really different. There were many instances in the last cycle where Fox News got out in front of Donald Trump and pressured and pushed him to implement certain types of policies or push for certain personnel. They're not going to do this time. They're going to be a laggard. They're not going to be a vanguard. So they're going to be sort of like what used to be fertile ground, but they're not going to be driving in the way that they were. And really then their major effect is going to be influencing the rest of the right-wing media and how much effort and energy they choose to put into carrying water for Trump or some of his Trump officials will then have an effect on the rest of the landscape. I don't think it's coincidence that we started to see the tides turn around the narrative of Pete Hegseth when Fox News finally started to let its on-air personnel do a lot more pro-Hegseth defense as opposed to just being silent. Their initial posture with the scandals was to be silent. Then Donald Trump pressured them, and then they started to run defense. And now you're starting to see some cracks in the opposition to Hegseth. And I think that's going to be the role that they play, a subordinate. And that's not good for their own power long term. That's also not good for their business. And I think that's how it comes back to this case here, is that Murdoch's assessment here is very, very short term. But long term, the real money and the power is actually with James and Elizabeth's sort of strategy.
Can I ask you one question? James Carville has been on the air with my colleague Ari Melber saying that he thinks, the person that has the most influence right now over Trump's staffing decisions and broadly the administration's agenda is former Fox News host Tucker Carlson. And then everyone from Elon Musk to J.D. Vance, a lot of these picks, Kash Patel, are straight from the mind of Tucker Carlson. Do you have any sense of the role he's playing behind the scenes, or do you have a thesis on, or a hypothesis on kind of who's pulling the strings right now?
That when you think about the right-wing media, you basically had Fox News and Rush Limbaugh, and Rush Limbaugh had the narrative. Everybody was really, he had a worldview, and he was the storyteller. When he died, few people actually stepped into that void. The two that stepped into that void were Tucker Carlson. He had a narrative that he was driving that would filter down into the others. The other would be Steve Bannon. And so, to James's point, he's right about one thing, and that's that Tucker Carlson's worldview and his narrative and the story that he's telling about America and the rest of the world, and it's not a good story, that a lot of the picks and the personnel and the policies and sort of the vibe of MAGA, of what has become the professionalization of MAGA, is coming from Tucker's worldview, but I wouldn't discount the worldview that Bannon is sort of pushing out there as well. I think they each are people that have a narrative. They're dependent. They are related. But I think that's where Tucker's influence really is. I don't think he's picking individual people, but I think he's actually telling a big story that only certain characters can be casted for.
The synthesizers, neither of whom is on Fox News, both on their own independent platforms. Angela Carusone with Media Matters. It's great to talk to you. Thanks for your time tonight.